Another BMW engine that's come in for a bit of work is this 6-cylinder BMW, and what I've got to do to this is it's brought it out quite big actually. If I just unbag or unwrap the piston. So this, I'm only doing it roughly just to give you so that's an 80mm bore at the moment, and this is a big bore stroked conversion. I've never done one of these before, so I'm being guided by the customer that wants it done, and a company called Island Engineering Motorsports in America that have supplied the kit for it, and a really quite a good set of instructions on how to get this the way it needs to be. This is to make it a 2.9 stroker instead of, I think, a 2.3 or 2.5 maybe, I'm not sure. But basically it's an 80mm bore at the moment, and I'm boring it out to 85mm, so I've got 5mm to take out of each bore. So the Van Norman boring bars only really like to take around 40 to 60 thou, and not as a final cut either. For a final cut, I always try and do less than 40 thou. So the first thing I'm going to do with this is prep the block. I've already taken the dowels out, but I thought I would just show a quick trick of how to get these, because these dowels are actually very thin, and when you try and get them out, they're normally stuck in, and you put grips on them and they just squash and they're buggered then, and you have to try and get new ones. So there's two little tricks I've got for getting dowels out. The first one is I use a drill bit. I use the back end of a drill bit, and so I make sure it's the right inside diameter size for the dowel, so the outside diameter of the drill bit, and then I tap the drill bit in, or press the or push the drill bit in, and then with a good set of mole grips, just grip around the edge, give it a wiggle, and then you can normally pull them out. It does sometimes put little teeth mark on the top of the dowel where the mole grips have gripped them, but what I do then is when I come to refit them is fit the dowel upside down, and then use the little teeth marks to actually hold it into the block, and then the good bit is sticking out ready for the cylinder head. The other thing I've got is a proper dowel puller, I mean that's fantastic. I use that 80% of the time, but sometimes if these are really stuck in where the dowel puller is smooth on the inside, it doesn't matter how much you try and lock onto it to slide hammer it off, it doesn't come. So either a drill bit or even a bolt. You can even get a bolt if it's a perfect size, and just make sure that fits, mole grips, and then just work it out. So with those out, I'm going to put them in the piston box, so my customer has got them to hand when he gets the stuff back. The other thing I've got to do with this is balance it, so I'll show the whole process. I ain't got to build it, it's just bore it, skim it, wash it, hone it, wash it, and balance it. So what I'm going to do is, where there's bits of old gasket on here, I'm just going to put the flat block across it ever so gently, just for when the boring bar sits on it, it sits on it nice and flat. So the other thing I do before I go over it with the flat block is I just use a really nice sort of double-edged razor blade just to get any of the big chunks of gasket off, because if not I'll be flat blocking it all day. So I'll just run the scraper all the way across, and anywhere it needs it, just scrape it. I mean, the other thing you can do, which I've sometimes done if they really look bad or look distorted, is I do run the block skimmer over it, just quickly, just to get it flat. Then I bore it, and then I finish it off again with a block skimmer. But like I say, just a few minutes of preparation just means we know that we're boring it nice and perfect. Then The other thing that I do is before I go over with the flat block, I just put some like WD-40 or penetrant on there, and that just helps this block just slide over it instead of doing any, well, not damage, but biting into it coarse. I don't want to do that. I just want to take the high spots off it. So I'm going to get the WD-40, I'll clean it up, and then I'll film the next part of me boring it. So on the BMW, which is coming for a big rebore from 80 up to 85 mil, it takes it from I think a 2.3 to a 2.9. I might be a little bit wrong on that, but it's definitely a big rebore. I've left one bore just to show you, but I mean, you can physically see this one's been bored out now to just shy of 85 mil, and this one's at 80 mil. I've done the 5, I've left the 1 to do, so I'll time lapse that just to show how much work's involved. What I've done is preset my cutters, because I can only take a certain amount off without it getting the boring bar too heavy and too hot, sorry, and putting it under a lot of strain, and I don't kind of want to overwork it, so I'd rather just do more cuts, get it done just safely really, and then there's less chance of the boring bar moving. Not that it does, to be fair, because the cat's paws kind of keep it pretty straight, but yeah, I don't want to risk it by taking a cut that it doesn't want to do. The next job on the 6-cylinder BMW is to reface the block face. But before I do that, I'm just going to take the old core plugs out, because there's some surface rust on them, and my customer wants them to look quite nice. So all I do when I'm taking the core plugs out, I've already done these first 2, is to look whereabouts the core plug is in relation to the bore. Now I know that there is the middle of the bore basically, so I know that there's not going to be much gap between here and the liner. So I'm going to hit it in this side, and I'll just hit it in the corner and then get it to twist. Just keep tapping it around, because I don't want to put an hole in it unless it's completely rotten. So I'll get it to twist like that, and then it's a case of just trying to lever it out. So with that, I just use one of the snap-on lever bars. Sometimes you just have to sort of force it one way to squeeze it in. And then a lot of the time you can just get underneath it to pull it out. Like that. Two more cylinders to do. So what that's now ready for is tipping upside down, just to drain all the honing fluid out of it. So I'm quickly going to put the honing oil back on it, and then I've just got this bore brush here, and I just give them an initial bit of a clean out. this won't scratch the bore or anything, they're only nylon brushes, very light. And that's it, that's a lovely finish. The only thing that I'll just do is get a piston and just make sure that it fits. So this is a mild motorsport piston. These are amazing pistons. And there we go. I mean, with experience, I can tell that that feels just about perfect. Or it is perfect, I should say. Lovely. So now I'm going to tip the block over. I'm going to let that drain all the honing oil out while I'll crack on with another job. And then we'll put that in the cleaner for a few hours, fit the new core plugs and gap the rings for the pistons. The next job on the BMW is to set the piston ring gaps. So to do that, I'm looking at what the what the piston manufacturer, which is Mile Motorsport, recommends we set these rings to. And we're going to go exactly with that setting. So we pick what application that we're going for: high performance street, circle track, nitrous over 200 horsepower, that means the shot of NOS, turbocharged, supercharged or diesel. So ours is a high performance street, so we're just going to mark off that, and then it gives us the top ring, the second ring and the oil rail. So these are the sizes that we need. So the first thing that we need to do is know the finished bore size for the engine. And it's in Imperial, these pistons. Well, I'm machining Imperial. I can machine in metric as well, but when you buy a piston, normally they come in Imperial. So we need the bore, the finished bore size, so 3.3464, and then you times it for the top ring by 0.0045. So that leaves me a top ring gap of 15 thou. So what I'll do is just make a note of that just above where we're going. Then we have to work out the second ring. So once again, the bore size, and then the calculation. So the second ring is 13 thou. And then finally the oil rail. Oops. So that's 50 thou. So I'll start off with the oil rails. Well, I'll start off by getting some feeler gauges, that'll help. Well, I hate being in two workshops. I just went in the engine build room to find my feeler gauges and realised that I've put them in a box full of stuff which I've been using out of my toolbox, so they was right next to me. But anyway, we'll carry on filming now. I've got them. So what I do is I do them cylinder by cylinder. So I'll gap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then as I've done the piston rings, I'll fit them onto the pistons. And then I also mark that the pistons are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. That just helps with keeping everything, so that just helps with keeping everything exactly as it should be. So the oil rails are always quite tricky to hold square in the bore. But straight away I could see that gap is just about perfect. And then I always check that the actual oil control is has got a gap and that it's not tight in there, which it has. And then the second ring, just cleaning them a little bit just to make sure there's no debris on them. And then what I'll use is just something to just know that I've got the ring square in the bore. So what I'll do is I'll just lock the verniers off at like 6, 10 mil, doesn't really matter the number. So around 8 mil, and then tighten it up where it's nice and tight, and then I can just drop my ring so it's sitting completely perfect in the bore. You only really need to do this on the first piston, because once you've got the ring fitted to the piston, you can then use that to you can use that piston then to set the depths. But there we go. I know that's square. What happens is if you don't put the time in and get that ring in the bore square, if the ring moves slightly like that, effectively what you're doing is opening up the size of the bore, which will open up the gap, and then you're gonna get an incorrect reading. So it's really, really important that you make sure the ring is square in the bore. You can buy ring squaring tools off the internet, which I've got to be honest with, it's something that I should buy. I'm just that used to doing it my way with the verniers and then using the piston. I've never bought one, but I think it's probably going to be the next thing that I might get. They're adjustable, they're like a little aluminium block, and they have little adjusters on them, which are really good. Anyway, the ring's in, so now I'm going to measure what my gap is. I'm going to start at 10 thou. This is the second ring. And then I'm going to make notes of my finished gaps. If I can find my pen, I've just had it. There it is. So this is the this is actually cylinder 6, so I'm doing it a little bit back to front. And then the next one is the top ring. I also always try and fit them the right way up, which it's probably not actually needed, but it's something else that I just try and do. Try and measure and fit everything the way it should be going in the engine. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm just jotting it down at the moment, and then once I've completed it on my customer's paperwork, I'll write it all down nice and neat, and then he gets a copy and I get a copy. But that's cylinder 6 all complete, so I can keep all them rings together and fit them onto the piston, which I'll do now. So I'm back on filming the BMW 6-cylinder engine, which has had the big rebore, and the first thing I'm doing for my customer or for my records is weighing every single part. I've already done the pistons and I've wrote the weight on top, and now I'm just weighing things like the pins and getting a weight of everything. The ring pack, so that's basically 1 cylinder's worth of rings. And then the next thing I've got to do is end to end weigh the rods. So to do that, I've got to take the old bearings out, take the old pins out, and torque the bottom of the rod up. I'm then going to weigh the crankshaft, the front pulley, the flywheel and the clutch assembly, and then take that over to the new workshop to balance it. So with the conrods all checked for weight and the pistons checked for weight, all the rings are now gapped. What I'm doing is I'm just assembling the piston to the rod and the gudgeon pin with these clips. Now these are swines to do, to be honest, and a lot of people, they really make a mess of the piston around here when they're trying to install it, because trying to get them in and out can be quite tricky. And what you can also do is over squeeze them and they'll lose their shape, so they won't retain the gudgeon pin properly. So the best way I found of doing these is to get most of the clip in like that, and then hold some quite strong thumb pressure on it so it can't flick out like that. Just move this down, and then with a nice rounded pick, screwdriver, something that's not going to scratch it, I then just push it all the way round, and then it just follows the bore of the piston and then just locks in. Once you get the knack of it, it is really quite simple, but at first you can struggle. But as you can see, there's no marking on the piston, the gudgeon pin retaining clip isn't distorted or anything, so that's the best way I found of doing it. What I've also done is, this is for a fast road application, so I've balanced the pistons and the rods to within a gram, but then what I've done is I've wrote the weight of everything down end to end and everything, and then I've matched the pistons and rods up, so they all, once balanced as a whole assembly, they're pretty much absolutely bang on, but individually they're within a gram of each other as well. So that's it, the pistons and rods, I've put them together for him. I fitted the rings, so I always tape bubble wrap around them so it doesn't chip them. So they're all box ready for him now. On the block, all I've got left to do is fit the core plugs. So with that, I just find an installing tool which is a little bit bigger than that, and then it's just a case of ceramicing the bore of the block and then just hitting them in where they're flush. So that's the BMW M20 engine all complete now. Unfortunately, I forgot to record balancing the bottom end, but I'll show you what it needed. Didn't need a lot. I had to just make one slight adjustment to the front of the crank there. The front pulley was perfect, the flywheel was perfect, and when I bolted the clutch on, that just needed a very slight adjustment here. So I'm just waiting now for the customer to come and collect that. Everything's all done and ready for him. I've printed off his balance sheets before and after of everything. So that's the crank before, the crank after. That there is the front pulley and the flywheel, which was in balance. And then that's the clutch afterwards and the clutch before. So he's on his way to collect that now, and we'll crack on with something else. A special little job that I thought I would show you, which is one for myself actually. So I'm going to do this over a few nights, and it's something that I've had for quite a while, and I've had it in storage, and it's an old Eppolite piston and ring measuring design. So basically this would sit on the counter of an engine reconditioners, like an old school engine reconditioners, and the idea was a customer could bring a piston in, they put it in there, twist this, which is pretty much seized up. In fact, I've taken that off. That bit there should twist, but it's seized. So you twist that, and then that goes around the skirt of the piston, and then up here it tells you the size of the piston. And then with the rings, you can get the rings and just push them in these, see which one it fits, and then you know the width of the ring as well, and it has a little scale on there. So what I want to do is have this actually either in my meeting room in the new building, or on the counter of the shop. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think it should go on the counter of the shop, or do you think it should go in my meeting room? I mean, it's never for sale. It's something that I really like it. So I'm gonna tidy it all up and get it working again. I want to clean the gauge up at the top, clean the glass, clean all this up. Also, what do you think? Do you think I should clean this up but leave it like kind of patinaed and with these bits of wear on it, or do you think I should shot blast it and then get it re-powder coated and looking perfect again? I'm a bit unsure. I kind of like the neat edges of things when they look perfect, but I also like the fact that this is very old. I mean, I don't know how old it is, but it's very old, and I kind of like the fact that it's probably seen a bit of action, and although saying that, it is flaking off quite bad in places. But I don't know, if you could leave your comments what you think. Shall I tidy it up? Shall I just clean it up? Shall I completely recondition it? Shall I put it in the shop, and shall I put it in the meeting room? What do you guys think? The next thing that I wanted to show you guys and see if anyone recognises what it is, and just for fun this is, I had two of them actually. One of them was in Sam's toolbox, which I gave to him years ago when he was still quite young. But when we sold his toolbox, I saw it in there, and I thought I'd just keep it somewhere safe, because I can't imagine for 1 minute there's many left. And I've got one locked away safely in my toolbox, which I still use all the time actually. And a guy called Ray Riley gave it to me when I was an apprentice. I worked for a guy called Malk Riley at a company called Midland Engine Services, and his dad, who was a bit of a legend, he was awesome. I actually learnt a lot from him. The naughty ways to fix things as well, which was quite funny. But yeah, one thing that he gave me was one of these. I mean, do you guys know what that is? And if you do, leave it in the comments section below. It's made by Van der Velde. Try and get a bit of it in so you can see it. But yeah, tell me what you think that is, and then on the next video I'll mention the people that have got it right, and if no one's got it right, I'll explain how it works and what it is. But yeah, so these mean a lot to me, and also that does too. So I've just walked into the new workshop to reface a 24 valve BMW cylinder head, and it looks like Sam's been to Costco, because we still haven't actually really got a kitchen. We're still waiting for the kitchen worktop to be fitted, but he's bought a box of pencils and 2 rubbers and a pencil sharpener. I don't actually know why he's done that, but there must be a reason. And then when we go upstairs and into the kitchen, there is the biggest bag of Yorkshire tea bags in the world, Galaxy hot chocolate, honey. I've never ever known Sam to want honey, but he must do. 3 tubs of lattes, which is what I like. A whole bag of Danish pastry, sorry. And then in the fridge, he's got pizza pocket sausages, more bacon than you could shake a stick at, and that looks like orange juice. The kitchen doesn't even work properly yet. What else has he got? Anything? Oh, I wonder if he's got biscuits. No, he ain't bought biscuits. But what's a little bit annoying about it, was 3 weeks ago I found out that I've got diabetes and can't eat pastries and bread and all that stuff. But yeah, I had to laugh. So I thought I would share. And then yesterday, I just wanted to thank Ross, who works for Brad next door at BJT. Ross has done another wicked job. So he's basically put in the hot and cold feed for the workshop wash sink. And then he's put in the hot and cold feed for the toilet, the cold feed for the toilet. He's also sent the pipe down to go into what's going to be the wash bay. And then I've also noticed in the shop, or outside I should say, he's put an outside tap on the side of the workshop for when we wash cars. So he's fitted all that, and he's put a lever valve here so we can switch it off when we're not using it, so it doesn't get left on or switched on. Thanks Brad, and a big shout out to Ross, who works for Brad. Another fantastic job, so cheers again for that, mate. You are a legend. And that's it for now.